Welcome to Remembering Mike Benny. Hi, I'm Doug Jones, a friend, colleague, and fan of Mike's here at the Jim Pattison Broadcast Group for almost 35 years. And for that time, Mike broadcast out of that studio, entertaining us, making us laugh every weekday morning. Over the next half hour, we're going to take a look back at the life of Mike Benny. Let's start off with some early pictures from deep in the archives. Did you know Mike was in a movie? Yep, it was called Wheat Soup, where Mike taught someone how to smoke through their nose. Mike also worked at a few radio stations before ending up here in Prince George.
Do you want my start in radio? It takes me just a second to tell it.
Well, yeah, way back when did you first want
Thompson, Manitoba.
Somehow I knew
Some high school friends of mine got this part-time thing on the radio, so I wanted to get into radio. So I thought I'd go down to the radio station and ask them what courses I should take. So I went in, I talked to the general manager, and I said, what courses should I take to get into radio, because I'm really interested. And they said, well, come into this room for a second. So I went into this room, and they gave me some papers, and they said, read this, we'll make a tape, see what you sound like. And then they said, well, can you start Monday? And I started. I mean, this never happens. This is just totally fluke. It just, it never happens. But I started that next Monday on the afternoon drive show, and that's how I started, just totally by fluke, just totally by accident.
And how old were you at this point?
18, just right out of high school.
Yeah.
So they told you what courses you should take.
Well, yeah, they said, come on over.
This one, the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of neat. And then I moved across the country. I worked in Terrace, Kitimat, and Rupert, and Regina, Saskatchewan on the plains.
And Prince George is your
And
favorite.
Prince George is my favorite. Been here the longest, 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran.
That's right.
See, it only took me 4 minutes for my whole life story.
That's very good. I'm very impressed. Yeah. And I wasn't even finished mine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. No.
We'll come back to you in a minute, okay,
Thanks.
Bill? What about your perceptions from when you were first thinking about it? Are they different?
They always change. They always change. In Thompson, I wanted, Ron Crane was the program director, and I wanted to be as good as him and make as much money as him. That was the only thing I wanted. And like 4 months later, all of a sudden you realize it's an extremely low goal. So you just constantly readjust yourself, and I don't know. I don't really. I never seem to expect as much as I get. So I guess I'm doing okay. Things are working out.
Mike also used to host the music video show on CKPG-TV, Spruce Capital Rocks. But you know, the outtakes were much more fun than the show itself.
And welcome to Spruce Capital Rocks on CKPG Television. No, don't readjust your calendars. It's not Saturday. This is Friday night, and our whole brand new time slot. We will now be seen at 12:07 precisely, 12:07 every Friday night. Spruce Capital Rocks of the Highway 97 visited edition of the program, and we don't have a name for our mascot. If you can think of a name for our mascot, be sure and drop us a line at the address you saw earlier, and we'll see it again at the end of the show. We've got 2 in a row now, but first of all, the latest from the always upbeat and optimistic Katrina and the Waves, and her latest on Spruce Capital Rocks. Come on, we'll get Barry Smith to join us. Hi, Barry. For our rock trivia question now. Here's our rock trivia question. It was this week back in 1974 that he married. And that's just about Extra 5. That's just about it for this edition of Spruce Capital Rocks. On behalf of everyone here at Advantage Electronics and everyone at CKPG Television, till next week, this is Toto. This is Africa from Toto. Extra number 3. I hate these lights. Extra, hey, how's this? Remember Starship and Sarah? That's coming up right after Vertigo and Loneliness. Never heard of it. Let's do it again. I'm just getting covered in ants here. That was, no, it wasn't. Sorry. James, here's Extra 4 with our third 3 in a row at Spruce Capital Rocks. And before that, Boot Sauce.
Boot Sauce, yeah.
Boot Sauce. English band?
Yeah.
Boot Sauce, English band. What else do you know about them?
They play all their own instruments.
They play their own instruments. Yeah. Good for them. Boot Sauce plays their own instruments. You heard it here first on Spruce Capital Rocks. Our top 10 countdown coming up next. Got to remind you about our great 55 cassette giveaway. We have 5 prize packages. There's a lot of 5s in this. 5 prize packages to a total of 55 cassettes we're giving away. And to, that's a fly. And to get your share of our 5 prize packages, just write us a letter to Spruce Capital Rocks, but draw a big 5 on the back of the envelope. And the first 5 we receive will each win a fabulous prize package from Spruce Capital Rocks and Radio 55. This is tongue twisting. 5 prize packages, total of 55 cassettes to give away. Have I made myself perfectly clear?
Yes.
We have 5 in a row coming up next. Just watch Spruce Capital Rocks late night Saturdays on CKPG.
The right time to roll to me. Baby, what a big surprise.
Mike Benny Mornings. Fun, great adult music, and intelligent talk. 550 CKPG, Prince George's adult favorites.
When 101.1 Hits FM debuted, Mike was the host, and that's when he got his first co-host.
I'm Melissa, also known as Number One.
And tonight on Friends, Phoebe's lack of coordination embarrasses Rachel when they're out jogging.
And Jesse gets a sexy new girlfriend. Al McPherson.
Jesse gets a girl.
Joey.
That's that kind of show.
They won't know.
And this year, 550 CK species.
Things to find.
There's new species coming. Mike.
It's obvious there's a chemistry, right? You can tell.
Mike was an absolute pro, but he really never took himself or our show too seriously. I was still getting used to getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning for this, morning show. And about a couple of weeks into the show, we were interviewing one of the guys from NSYNC. And I remember congratulating him on winning the American Music Award the night before. The only trouble was it wasn't NSYNC that won it, it was the Backstreet Boys. And so Chris, the guy from NSYNC, was not too happy about my mistake. And I was mortified to make that kind of mistake live on the air. But Mike was just so funny. He never took anything too seriously like that. And he was just encouraged me to laugh at it. And I'll never forget, I can picture him right now with the expression on his face and his voice. And he would say to me, "It's fine, all those boy bands look alike." That's a great memory I have of Mike.
So after Melissa, there was Jody.
Okay, now coming up on Friends, this is the one where Monica thinks that Rachel has stolen her thunder. It's Friends on PG-TV.
And then there was Amy Beeman. The show was called Benny and Beeman.
Hi, my name is Amy Beeman, and I am co-host number 3.
Benny and Beeman, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on 101.3 Hits FM.
Hey there, how you doing?
Yo, yo, party up.
Welcome to my show.
I didn't realize what an honor and privilege it was to work with Mike Benny at the time. I knew it was a really cool job, and he was a really nice guy, but it was one of my first grown-up jobs, so I just assumed that everyone I ever worked with would be thoughtful and funny and caring and professional and considerate. Mike really raised the bar for all my future jobs. I remember so many things about working with him, like our Tim Horton drive-through runs. He would always drink a single, but say double on air because it sounded better. I remember him making fun of me when I got distracted by shiny objects, which happened quite regularly. I remember him getting his royalty checks from his joke book. I remember him checking his lottery tickets because he had a subscription. I remember when Laurel was pregnant with Colin, Mike wore a pager and checked it constantly, even when it didn't beep. He really was one of the best. One of the best coworkers. Sorry. One of the best friends and one of the best people. My life is better for having him in it. And I'm so happy that I always told him that he would always be one of my favorites. We're gonna miss you, Mike.
Benny and Beeman, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on 101.3 Hits FM.
The River Wake Up with Mike and Jessica.
Hey, we both got new jackets.
And they cover our butts.
So imagine the size of these jackets to be able to cover both of our butts.
And listen all week for your chance to pick up Spruce Kings tickets on the river.
Over the years working with Mike Benny, I've had a chance to have 1,000,001 memories. I couldn't possibly pick a favorite. There are just far too many. But I shared this story with some coworkers the other day, and they got a good chuckle out of it, and I hope you do too. Someone in Mike's family, one of the kids, I don't know who, sang the wrong lyrics to Kelly Clarkson's Since You've Been Gone. So whenever it would come on air, Mike would scream, Since I Got Gum. So he and I would sing Since I Got Gum, and he would do it in his best Gordon Lightfoot, and I would do it in my best Cher, to Kelly Clarkson, Since I Got Gum. You'll never get that out of your head now. Thanks, buddy. I love you and I miss you.
Benny and Ray, 101.3 The River on the roof of the Coast Inn of the North for the 22nd Annual Salvation Army Tree of Lights.
And we are here with Captain Bruce Kirk. Bruce, what does the Tree of Lights mean to the Salvation Army?
Well, this tree has been here for 22 years as an icon in the city of Prince George, and the Salvation Army is very grateful to the Coast Inn of the North, but through this partnership, we're able to provide Christmas for thousands and thousands of people in the city.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, or number 5 of Mike's co-hosts. I worked with him for about a year, and there's so many different things that you could say about Mike, about his amazing sense of humor, or how very, very smart he was, how much he loved his wife and his kids. It was all really inspiring. But I think what I really learned, as I was quite a young broadcaster when I worked with him still, is just how to listen to people. He was such a great listener and really interested in what anybody who came on the show who had to say. But it extended past that. It was his co-workers, it was anyone around him. He really just was a good friend and a really great guy, and he definitely is missed.
It's the River Wake Up live from the lobby of the Coast Inn of the North for the Salvation Army Tree of Lights. Second Cup is outside offering free coffee.
Hi, it's Lisa D, or co-host number 6. To learn of Mike's passing was devastating. Mike was truly one of the kindest, funniest people I knew, but truly the best teacher that I've ever had to this day. He was my first morning co-host, so I learned from him what a morning show was supposed to be. Fun, filled with laughter, and it always was. My favorite memory of Mike, by far, was the morning he decided he was hungry for cheesecake. He wanted cheesecake. I had never tried cheesecake, and I said to him, I've never had it, and that's all he needed to hear. And he held on to that and kept talking about it until we got a phone call from someone saying, I'm bringing in cheesecake. So while we were waiting on the cheesecake, I was brewing the coffee in the studio right beside my chair. And while we were getting ready to cut the cheesecake, the coffee percolated and you could hear it through the mic, so we had to acknowledge it. And without missing a beat, Mike just immediately said, it's the River Wake Up with cheesecake and coffee. And it was so smooth and so funny, and I still listen to that break to this day. My heart goes out to all of his family, and to Mike himself, I say, rest easy, my friend, until cheesecake and coffee once again.
Mike Benny's special 25th anniversary show on the river, a surprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
A surprise. We heard from Melissa this morning, number 1. We heard from Jody, Amy, Jessica.
Mike and Ashley are feeling rebellious and tagging Prince George. Why?
Because we can. Hello, I'm Ashley Hinton, otherwise known as number 7 in the North Chair.
Okay, morning show checklist. Squirrel, pirate hat,
check.
Purple hand clappers, smoked oysters, whoopee cushion. Good to go.
I spent just over 3 years on the River Wake Up across from Mike, and of course with that comes a lot of memories, and I'm sure his Mike-isms have been mentioned, his love of Star Wars, all things space, bacon, tanks, and his passion for soup making in his garage is a real standout for me as well. One of my favorite memories with Mike would be probably when we got to broadcast live from Jamaica.
Today's best music, 101.3 The River. We're on Jamaica time this morning. Good morning from the Riviera Beach Club at Sandals, Grand Riviera, and Ocho Rios, Jamaica. And now, our 6 o'clock River News. Lady Gaga, today's best music, 101.3 The River, and we are ready for beach volleyball against Kamloops. Woohoo! World Championship Beach Volleyball. Ashley and I against the Kamloops Morning Show. Now, Lincoln has been brought in to do play-by-play for us.
Yes, I said.
And he's also going to officiate, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to officiate.
And you're familiar with the rules?
Familiar with the rules,
All
but
right.
today we're not using any rules.
I like it.
We are just going to get the ball
Look at
over the
that.
net. All right?
Start the play-by-play. Live on location. I tell you, these darn remotes are killing me, man.
It's the River Wake Up in Jamaica, tomorrow on the river.
More from Ocho Rios, Jamaica.
We were so blown away that we could go in the first place. And when we got there, there's this crystal blue water and this beautiful resort. But him and I, being the foodies that we were, out of all of the things, it was probably the buffet that was the highlight for us, really. I remember there was this one night we were all finishing up dinner, and it was this beautiful seafood buffet, and there was a group of us sitting there, and everyone's talking about getting dessert. And it's like a light went off in Mike and I's head, and we looked at each other. Second lobster? So there's this picture of us going up, having lobster for dessert, and you can just see the pure joy and shock in his face that he gets to have lobster again. Anyway, the thing that stands out the most, of course, for me with Mike is the love that he had for his family. He was extremely proud of his kids. He talked about them all the time, and he loved Laurel with all of his heart. You're going to be missed, my friend.
The River Wake Up with Mike and Ashley.
It's not always funny, but it's always 5. Mike's Top 5 tomorrow morning at 7:10.
And get ideas with DIY projects, beauty tips, and recipes with my point of Pinterest at 7:50.
On 101.3 The River.
Okay, Mike didn't actually collect co-hosts. It was more of a catch and release program.
Oh, so many co-hosts. Why do they keep leaving?
Mike, wake up.
Whoa, what happened? You fell asleep on the board again. Really? Because I just had the weirdest dream. First, I dreamt that Jessica left, and someone named Lindsay Ray replaced her. And then she left, and someone named Lisa D replaced her. And then she left, and someone named Ashley came. But that's just crazy, right?
Dude, we're on in 10 seconds. Let's go.
The River Wake Up with Mike and Jessica.
Please excuse my lack of hair and makeup. 1, I'm lazy. 2, I just wanted to make this an authentic experience because this is what Mike Benny would have experienced every single morning before work on the River Wake Up with Mike and Shar. Yes, so I guess I gave that away. My name is Shar Normando for anyone that didn't know before. I'm Mike's number 9 co-host, the 9th co-host, aka number 9. So I was really fortunate enough to work beside Benny or across from Benny for about 2.5 years. And when I say fortunate, I really mean it. He was the type of guy that made everyone around him better. Like, not just on the radio either, in real life. There was a few times where I definitely let myself get a little carried away, maybe a little worked up due to some silly comment that was on Facebook, but he was always that voice of reason, and he kind of helped me see things in the bigger picture. Like, not only at work, but in life. And he always made me feel heard, which I loved. He was positive, and he was always able to lighten the mood, like, no matter what the tension is. He was funny, too. You listen to him on the radio, he was so funny. And his silly puns were a highlight of my day. I know that. I know it was a highlight of lots of people's days. And the best part is, so when you would be hearing those jokes for the first time, he'd be surprising me with them on air as well. And I know they were super corny, but it was always really genuine laughter. His delivery was just fantastic. And when he could look you in the eye and say it, it was hilarious. One other thing that I just adored about Mike Benny is that he loved his family, and he was always eager to share new pictures of his kids and his dogs, Zoe and Murphy, with me. I really look forward to him pulling into work every day. And it was like clockwork too, 5:40 a.m. I just never knew what we were gonna get up to, but I knew we'd have fun. So whether it was like jokingly yelling at people for breakfast sandwiches from our studio, fancying it up with like a cracker bar with some Boursin cheese and some Leslie Stowe crackers. That was Doug's idea, the cracker bar, by the way. Or just talking about our families. I really, really enjoyed his company, as I know many of you did as well.
I think the first impression after listening to Mike on the air and meeting him in person is that he's the same. He was the same on the air as he was off the air. And I think that his honesty and his being so genuine, which is what made Mike so likable. And he was smart. And goofing with Mike off the air always ended up in a belly laugh.
So I used to dance. The River Wake Up World Hockey Challenge.
Hey, Mike, look, William Shatner.
William Shatner? Really? Excuse me, ma'am. Mike Benny here from CKPG Radio. I was wondering if we can get a comment from you about Viken's CKPG Get Crackin' in the Morning contest. Yeah, you could win a trip for two to San Francisco from Marlin All Nations Travel, CKPG, and Viken's. Yeah. All you have to do is just cut out the entry form from a large box of Viken's eggs. That's right, a large box of Viken's eggs. You don't seem to be too talkative today, ma'am.
And Mike's hallway humor? Well, he'd walk up to you and start talking to you about World of Tanks as if you were some sort of expert. And if you ever left your studio unattended and Mike had the opportunity, he'd type beer at random somewhere in your Word document, and on your computer, he'd Google Hobbit toes, give you something hairy and gross to look at when you came back in. And Mike's bathroom humor? Don't worry, it's safe for all audiences. If Mike noticed you came into the bathroom, he would quietly push the couch up against the door, just to give you a laugh when you came out. And he had the incredible talent of taking things that were in his immediate surroundings and making fun out of them and having fun with them. For example, that's Work Fridge. It has its own social media account, a Mike Benny idea. And when it came to international things like Talk Like a Pirate Day, Mike made it about another local celebrity, our crusty talk show host of the time.
Also today, it's our day. Yes.
Aye, Mike Benny, it is.
Arr. That's right. Everyone gets to be Ben Meisner for... No, wait a minute. Everyone gets to talk like a pirate today.
Or when Mike messed up on a commercial. Even that was funny.
Check out this jawbone earpiece. Makes me look like Sean Connery. Oh, James Bond, sorry. Bond. Shirley Bond.
There is something so simply genius about the way Mike Benny presented things so easily and smoothly on the air. He set the bar ridiculously high.
The plate spinning record atop rods was set at how many plates?
43.
84.
A bunch of sticks or a bunch of plates?
A bunch of sticks. We could say like...
One person.
One person. A bunch of sticks with plates spinning on them all at once.
How would you hold on to all of them?
I have no idea. You have to be holding on to them in parts of your body that weren't designed to hold poles.
And even when a double entendre snuck up and gave Mike the giggles, he was still smooth.
Okay, so you nailed Macaulay Culkin here at 29. Sorry, I didn't mean that. What I meant was you guessed correctly Macaulay Culkin's age.
Over the years, Mike volunteered his time in the community for such organizations as the Prince George Library. He also coached hockey and apparently hosted a very popular bingo night. Kyle Sampson, tell us all about it.
It's true. I remember I moved here going into grade 5. I was actually in a grade 4 or 5 split class with Mike's daughter, Catherine. She's a grade younger. And I got to Prince George, and everybody at Southridge Elementary talked about this bingo night. It was the hype of the school. And I kept thinking, if this is the biggest thing in the school, then where do I live now? Like, what is going on? This is all the excitement. So anyways, I knew who Mike Benny was, and it turns out Mike Benny was going to be there. That's what everyone was excited about. And I thought, okay, well, we'll see. We get to bingo night. And Mike's hosting it, and it was one of the funniest evenings I've ever experienced, and it was one of the most just exciting school events that I've ever been a part of, and that was one of my first impressions of meeting Mike, and it was pretty incredible. I knew who he was. He was on the radio. I wanted to get in radio. I listened to his show, but that was a first interaction, and it was pretty unbelievable. And we called it Bingo with Benny, and it was fantastic.
Mike was so popular, even the mayor designated Mike's radio anniversary, March 13th, Mike Benny Day. And remember Mike's top 5 lists he used to do all the time? The mayor came up with one of his own.
I have the top 5 reasons to proclaim Mike Benny Day. Number 5, Mike loved bacon, and Saturday, March 13th, is a great day to eat bacon. Number 4, collecting co-hosts is a thing. Mike mentored a total of 9 co-hosts, all of whom advanced as broadcasters to bigger markets, something that he truly celebrated. Number 3, Mike talked endlessly about his proficiency at World of Tanks. Number 2, the breakfast sandwich is a food group. And number 1, and so is beer.
This week on the River Wake Up.
Hi, this is the mayor. I'm happy to announce that Mike and Jessica have had their radio license renewed, so they'll be back on the air all week.
Yay! Thank you, Mr. Mayor! Mayor Hall, your impression of Mike Benny?
Well, I met Mike about I would say 20 plus years ago. We met at Southridge Elementary School. And, you know, Doug, he had a passion for CKPG, he had a passion for his community and a passion for his family. And I think those are the, you know, really the three things that stand out for me. He was passionate about everything he did, and he was a real community-minded person. And every time we wanted to do something at Southridge, or, you know, the city wanted to do something, and you know, he's just always involved. The first guy to put his hand up, first guy to get involved. I remember he got me to do an auction piece at the Chris Kringle lunch for the Child Development Center. I've never auctioned in my life, but Mike thought it'd be a great idea, and I loved it. I loved doing it, but that's the kind of guy he was. Yep.
And when it comes to making people laugh, he made everybody in the city laugh. Any funny memories of Mike or funny stories?
He phoned me one day and he said, "Hey, would you do a dunk tank thing for us? We're raising some money for an organization." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to." So I showed up and I had shorts on and a t-shirt and I don't know, a pair of running shoes, and it was pretty chilly. Mike was dressed up. He said, "So what's wrong?" I was shaking, and he says, "Warm day out. It's a beautiful day." And of course he was dressed up, had a coat on, long pants, and, you know, mitts. And I looked over my shoulder and there was an extension cord plugged in to an electrical box, and it ran to a little ring that heated up. I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, he's just stuck that in the dunk tank. It'll warm the water up." And I said, "Mike, you ever think about electricity and water, if that means much to you? This could be a bit of an accident waiting to happen." No, everything's okay, Lynn. Don't worry about it. Just sit there. You'll be fine." Well, years later, I guess I was fine. Here I am, and I did end up in the water, but not electrocuted, fortunately. But Mike didn't seem too concerned about it.
He invited you over shortly after you were elected mayor. How did that go?
He did, yeah. You know, he invited me, I think, probably just a couple of days after I got in on a Saturday, and I think Monday morning I did a show with him. And I walked into the studio and I started laughing right away. I don't know what it was. It was just a look he had when I walked in, and normally I was just so used to, you know, "Hey, Lynn, how you doing?" It was, "Your worship, Mayor Hall, how are you today?" And it sort of took me by surprise. And you know, I'd only been in the office for 2 days, hadn't even been really sworn in yet, and it just struck me. Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's a reminder. Yeah. That's a reminder that that things changed Saturday night. And a great interview, and we talked about the city. And I'd been on a number of times with him over the years, and when I became mayor, and it was all about the city. You know, what's going on, tell us what's happening here, tell us what's happening there, because he had a true interest. It wasn't just to fill time, he had a real interest in what was going on.
Mike Benny cranked out far too much funny and too many memorable radio moments from this chair over almost 35 years to fit into a 30-minute tribute. We all have our own special memory of Mike. Growing up with Mike, listening to him on the radio, as a coworker. Maybe it's the top 5 lists he used to do that stand out for you, or Mike's joke du jour. By the way, he compiled all of those jokes and had them published in a book called The World's Punniest Joke Book, and you can still buy that today. One more thing. Whenever Mike used to visit me at my studio and leave to come over to his, he would always say, "I'll just be right out here in the hall." We'll miss you, my friend.